Hello, I'm Morgan.
I'm Tuesday, and you're listening to the Naughty Girls podcast, the show that deep dives into early 2000s pop culture.
Now, what would our show be if we didn't talk about the one socialite who dominated the 2000s? This episode is all about Paris Hilton.
Loves it.
This will be the first of a two-part episode. Today, we're going to look into how she became a household name, what the general public thought of her, and how she's evolved from a scandalous party girl into an extremely successful businesswoman.
In part two, we'll discuss her 2020 documentary, This is Paris, which reveals some shocking truths about her early life, and we'll re examine the course of her career in this context. But first, I want to hear about how you're doing, Morgan. If you were a 2000 celebrity like Paris, what would the tabloid headlines say about you this week?
Okay, so mine would be Morgan hit the target.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I had never done this before, but my work team decided to go axe throwing over the weekend. And
Fun.
yeah, it was really fun. I mean, I was a little bit hesitant at first because, if you turned into our last episode, I'm very clumsy, right? So, and I was having a really bad week. So I was a little bit nervous and I was wondering, okay, am I going to throw this axe and is it going to kill somebody? But it was really great. I'm happy to report that I didn't kill anybody. And surprisingly, I did really well for not having done it before. And I was able to get some pretty high points. And we had a friendly little competition go on. And I did really well. So
You hit the target.
I hit the target a couple times too. So I was
That's
very proud of
incredible.
myself. Yeah, I definitely recommend if you're having a bad week or day or you're frustrated with something, definitely go and if you have the opportunity to go throw some axes, I highly recommend because it's very therapeutic.
Well, I do want to try it. I don't think I should go on a bad day. If I'm not in a good mood, you should not put an axe in my hand. But I'm down to try it sometime, definitely. And I'm so
Yeah,
proud of you.
thank you so much. Yeah, we should definitely go together. It'll be a great outing. And now over to you, Tuesday. If you were a 2000 celebrity like Paris, what would the tabloid headlines say this week about you?
It would say no longer in her flop era.
Ooh, okay. Elaborate.
You know what, Morgan? Life is good right now, and I'm happy to share that I'm no longer in my flop era. I also realized that so far in our show, I've only complained or shared really horrific stories in our bi-weekly updates. So I don't want to come across as a complainy laney or a Tuesday blues day, if you will. So I kind of want to flex my mini victories today.
Okay, you got the whole platform. Go for it.
Oh, thank you. So, number one, I got into grad school and I'm going to be starting school full time this fall, which is really exciting. I never thought I'd go back, but here we are.
Amazing. Good for you.
Thank you. Number two, got my braces off. Yes. I've been going to the orthodontist for the past 3.5, 4 years and got braces for the second time in my life as an adult. So, I'm happy to look like a 26-year-old again.
You look beautiful.
Thank you. And number three, Mike Dirnt from Green Day left me a comment on Instagram.
Yes.
Okay, so you know this, but being a Green Day fan was my entire identity growing up. And Mike is one of my three childhood idols, the other two being the other two members of the band. So that was really cool and actually very unexpected. I didn't think he'd see, I posted something about Green Day, and for some reason he found it and he left me a comment just indicating that he read my caption about them. So it was
I
really
love it.
cool. Yeah. It's nice to have some wins for once. I texted you earlier that I was on a walk before we were recording and I saw a man publicly urinating a block from my house. But you know what? Not even that can ruin my day. And on my way home, trying not to think about that puddle that was forming at his feet, I saw a beautiful sunset. So life is good, not in my flop era. That's the headline.
I love it. Sounds like you had a very, very good week, and I'm very happy for you because it was definitely, definitely needed.
I might go back to complaining next episode. We'll see.
That's okay. We're here to listen.
But for now, let's get into talking about our favorite heiress, Paris. Paris was all over TV and magazines when we were younger. What was your initial impression of her?
My first impression was that she was just a spoiled, dumb blonde girl simply based on what I saw in the media.
Same here. The first time I remember hearing about her name was in reference to a quote she gave about Walmart. I think it was from an episode of The Simple Life where she said, "What's Walmart? Do they sell wall stuff?"
I don't
What
know.
is Walmart? Is they sell wall stuff?
No.
What is it?
And I only ever saw people making fun of her for being airheaded and out of touch.
I remember everyone would always make fun of her too for saying, "That's hot" to everything. And funny enough, she actually legally trademarked that phrase, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, and she's had so many catchphrases. I remember we were obsessed with her My New BFF show in 2008, and she was always saying huge.
But that never quite caught on like "That's hot" did.
True. But I do like the new phrase that she's been trying to make happen, sliving.
Wait, what's that?
She says it's a combination of slang and living.
Oh, geez. Well, it's funny. Even though we weren't necessarily fans of hers, we know a lot about her because of her influence on pop culture. I mean, it even led me to write a six-part story about her when I was 11 years old.
Oh, you guys, you're in for a treat. At the end of this episode, Morgan's going to read part one of this incredible story. But first, let us give you a little background info on Miss Hilton. Miss Hilton. Miss Hilton. Miss Hilton.
So, Paris Whitney Hilton was born on February 17th, 1981, in New York City. She's the eldest daughter of real estate developer Richard Hilton and socialite Kathy Richards Hilton, and she's an heiress to the Hilton hotel fortune. Paris has three siblings: Nikki, who I'm sure we've all heard about, Baron, and Conrad.
Here's a fun fact. She was named Paris because of a pact that Kathy Hilton made with her childhood best friends Michael Jackson and LaToya Jackson. Yes, the ones you're thinking about, when they were younger. So they agreed that whichever of the three had a baby first would get to name the kid Paris. And Kathy had Paris first, but because Michael loved the name so much, it's also what he named his daughter. And now LaToya doesn't have any children, but apparently she has named every dog or cat she's had Paris.
Paris Hilton was also given the nickname Star when she was younger, which inspired her to start modeling as a child. Funny enough, do you know how this relates to Donald Trump?
No, actually.
So Trump actually gave Paris her big break in the modeling industry. Trump was friends with Richard and Kathy, and when Paris was 15, Trump asked her if she wanted to be the first model to sign with his new modeling agency, T Management. Her parents weren't thrilled with the idea and wanted her to continue with her education, but not surprisingly, Paris went against their wishes.
Okay. I know Trump was on another level of fame back in the 90s, but that's not hot.
Right? But you know what was? The New York party scene. And Paris basically was the party scene. I mean, there was something about her that people just couldn't get enough of, and she was essentially famous for just being herself.
Yeah, from the time she was like 16. She also claims that she was the first celebrity to get paid to party. She's basically written checks to show up to clubs ever since she was a teen. In her documentary, This is Paris, she shared that she grew up in a very strict household, and this probably contributed to her rebelling and going wild. And we'll be discussing her early life in a lot more detail next episode, so make sure you tune in for that.
But her first major claim to fame came with her role in The Simple Life, a reality TV show she starred in alongside best friend Nicole Richie. It premiered on December 2nd, 2003 on Fox.
The network originally approached Paris with the idea of having her and her sister, neither of whom had ever worked jobs, to star in a comedy where they go live and work on a farm. Nikki wasn't on board, so Paris asked two other friends, first Rod Stewart's daughter, Kimberly Stewart, and then Casey Johnson, heiress to the Johnson & Johnson company, before she finally got Nicole Richie to sign on.
Nicole was also a socialite known for being Lionel Richie's adopted daughter, and he wrote the song Ballerina Girl about her. Paris and Nicole had been friends since the age of 2 and grew up very similarly. So the show's premise was two young socialites getting serious reality checks when they leave behind their lavish lifestyles in California and struggle to fit in with average Americans.
In the first 3 seasons, they road tripped across America and did homestays with families while working at local businesses. And they did everything from helping to run a dairy farm to working as maids at a nudist resort to interning at a morgue and becoming summer camp counselors. It was canceled after 5 seasons, and there was also a very awkward fourth season where Paris and Nicole were filmed separately because they'd had a falling out and they weren't on speaking terms. Morgan, were you able to watch the show while it aired?
I didn't, but I have seen snippets of episodes on the internet and I've seen a lot of memes going around as well. But wasn't there an episode where Kesha's family hosted them? I remember seeing
Yes.
that.
Yes, there was. Okay, so in that one, Paris, Nicole, and a very young Kesha auditioned random men to date Kesha's mom. And then they also interned for a wedding planner. And then they ruined the wedding.
Amazing.
So I didn't watch it either when it aired. We were so young at the time, and I also just really wasn't interested. But I did buy the first 2 seasons on DVD a couple years ago just because it's still so referenced in pop culture, and I wanted to know what it was all about. And you know what? I binged the whole series just a few weeks ago, and I can see why it was so successful. It's like peak 2000s TV, and maybe it's my broken sense of humor, but I find it so funny.
Yeah, clearly the girls and producers knew exactly what the public wanted because the show amassed 13 million viewers and won a handful of awards. Its popularity also led to international remakes of the show.
I think the chemistry between Paris and Nicole was a big part of its appeal, and that's something that just can't be scripted. Nicole was the more foul mouthed friend who was always coming up with witty one liners and instigating trouble, and Paris would play up the sweet, baby voiced, dumb blonde shtick to get out of doing work, but behind closed doors, you'd hear her scheming with Nicole in her naturally deep voice. And even though they were stereotyped as being dumb, spoiled brats, they were savvy enough to know what their audience would find entertaining.
Shortly after the first season premiered, though, Paris's infamous sex tape with ex-boyfriend Rick Solomon was leaked and made global headlines. And it was believed The Simple Life had the high ratings it did because the tape is what got the world interested in Paris. The tape was privately filmed in 2001 when she was 18 years old and was later released in 2004 by Solomon under the title One Night in Paris. He started distributing it with an adult film company called Red Light District without Paris's consent.
The media and public really had no mercy for Paris when this happened. In retrospect, she was a young girl who was taken advantage of and exploited by a sleazy older guy. But at the time, she was ridiculed, slut shamed, and parodied for profit. In a 2021 interview with Vanity Fair, she said the incident actually left her with post traumatic stress disorder and that she still suffers from the trauma to this day.
Back then, I remember thinking, oh, I'm sure she just did this to gain more media attention, but now I really do feel bad for her. So many people had the opinion that she was to blame because she participated in the making of the tape, but nobody ever thinks it's going to be released for people to see, let alone the entire world.
Hmm.
I can't even imagine how traumatizing it was for her, and she obviously got caught up in a relationship with a guy who she trusted, and he betrayed her trust. She even said, quote, "It was my first real relationship. I was so in love with him and I wanted to make him happy."
You summed up my thoughts pretty well. She was villainized when she was really a victim. And I think if something like that happened today, the person involved might be treated much more compassionately than celebrities were 20 years ago. I also find it funny that people's takeaway from that situation was that a sex tape leak is the formula for a fast track to fame. So Kim Kardashian is a clear example, right? Like she went from being Paris's assistant and friend to a major celebrity after her own sex tape with Ray J leaked. And there are rumors that Kim's team, or that maybe even her mom, Kris Jenner, planned to release the tape to promote the first season of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, which Kim and her lawyers deny. But it's interesting to note that Paris ended her friendship with Kim as soon as that happened. And I also remember from watching her 2011 show, The World According to Paris, that Paris is, or at least was, like very, very against doing business with people who've worked with adult entertainment companies.
So Paris filed a $30 million lawsuit against Red Light District for violation of privacy, illegal business practices, and emotional distress. And Rick Solomon filed a suit against the Hilton family, accusing them of tainting his reputation. He later dropped that lawsuit, though.
By 2005, Paris's lawsuit had been settled out of court, with Paris agreeing to accept a portion of the profits from the distribution of the tape, and she said she would donate some of it to charity.
Scandal continued to follow Paris throughout her career, though. She was first arrested for DUI in September of 2006. So just a few hours after her arrest, she called into On Air with Ryan Seacrest and explained that she may have been speeding a little just because she really wanted an In-N-Out burger, which is totally understandable.
Her license was suspended and she was told to enroll in an alcohol education program, but she did not. And she was caught multiple times driving recklessly after that. So Paris was then sentenced to 45 days in jail in 2007 for violating her probation, but she only served 23 days due to good behavior. She told CNN's Larry King that she spent 23 hours a day during that time in solitary confinement.
Later in 2010, she was charged with possession of marijuana and cocaine when police noticed marijuana smoke coming from a vehicle in Las Vegas. She was in a car with her then boyfriend, Cy Waits.
She pled guilty, but instead of additional jail time, she received 1 year of probation, 200 hours of community service, and a $2,000 fine. And then she was instructed to enroll in a substance abuse program.
Can we just talk about her mugshots here for a second? They seriously look like they're from a professional photo shoot.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, her hair looks good, Her makeup's fire, and she's got that perfect head tilt down. I mean, when I try and take my own selfies, they don't even look that good.
No way. But you know what? I think she would tell us that being arrested is no excuse not to look fabulous. And it got so much publicity. I find this hilarious, but at one point, a news anchor at MSNBC got tired of covering the Paris arrest story. And she said on air, I hate this story and I don't think it should be our lead. So then apparently she pulled out a lighter and she tried to set her script on fire, but that didn't work. So then she crumpled up the paper to quote unquote make a statement. You know what? As someone with a background in journalism, I do feel for her.
I don't even think we can convey how obsessed everyone was with the arrest. Nicole Richie also got arrested for DUI in 2007, and her mugshot was everywhere too. Remember the one where she's looking up at the camera with that mysterious smile on her face?
Uh-huh, yeah, you can just tell she was trying not to laugh. Speaking of, let's talk a little bit more about their falling out that we mentioned earlier.
Yes, so the two were inseparable until Paris didn't invite Nicole to her Saturday Night Live hosting gig in 2005. And rumor has it that Nicole retaliated by throwing a party that same night to watch Paris's performance. But that wasn't all. It's been said that Nicole also screened Paris's sex tape along with everyone else at the party.
Paris publicly said, quote, it's no big secret that Nicole and I are no longer friends. Nicole knows what she did. But then Nicole simply responded that they just grew apart and nothing happened.
This must have made things quite uncomfortable on the set of The Simple Life.
Definitely. I mean, they honored their contracts and kept filming, but they weren't really in any scenes together in the fourth season. The show kind of became a parody of Wife Swap, where Paris and Nicole would go to separate houses and take on the role of a housewife for a day.
But they did reconcile after 2 years, and in the season 5 premiere, Paris said to Nicole, quote, I don't even know why we're fighting. I think it's just the tabloids. I wonder, though, if that was genuine or if it was just for the cameras.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I'm thinking it's for real though, because since then it seems they've stayed good friends. Like, for example, Nicole had a baby with her now husband, Joel Madden, the lead singer of Good Charlotte, a year after she and Paris made up. And then Nicole even set Paris up with Joel's twin brother, Benji.
Nicole also said in an interview that she has nothing but love for Paris, and Paris said that Nicole was the funniest person that she had ever met. I mean, they were inseparable and grew up together. It's pretty hard to just let go of someone who was like a sister to you. I mean, sisters fight, but most of the time they make up and they continue on.
I think so too. Although I do find it curious that Paris wasn't invited to Nicole and Joel's wedding. But either way, Nicole was at Paris's wedding last fall.
One thing that's clear, though, is that despite all the scandal and drama, Paris has proven herself to be a hardworking, successful businesswoman. She may be the heiress to the Hilton fortune, but it's been alleged her grandfather cut her and the Hilton family from his will in 2007 because he was embarrassed by Paris's antics. Regardless, she's had multiple of her own business ventures.
Yes, Paris essentially turned her celebrity into a business model and started building an empire in her early 20s. In 2004, she published her first of two books called Confessions of an Heiress, which became a New York Times bestseller. This is the book that outlines her 23 rules on how to be an heiress. We'll put a link to that in the show notes if you want some quality reading material.
She also revealed in her first book that she learned to present herself as a dumb blonde for the media because that's what people wanted to see and that's what she was known for. In reality, she's actually very smart.
If you're skeptical, just wait until our next episode where we get into how Paris excelled in her business and economic classes in school. Then in 2005, she landed her first major acting role in the horror film House of Wax, and then went on to star in other movies like Zoolander and The Hottie and the Naughty. That last one is totally on brand for her.
Yes, that's hot. She actually won a Teen Choice Award for Best Scream in House of Wax. Have you seen that movie? Her death scene? Oh my gosh, I can't even watch it. It's so gory.
Yes, oh my God, I thought it was actually really scary. I also thought her acting wasn't too bad either. So then in 2006, she created Paris Hilton Entertainment, which consists of 45 branded stores, 19 product lines, and 27 fragrances.
She's got everything from clothing and shoes to handbags, and she even has a dog fashion line called Pup& Co. Boutique. So I was browsing the website, and they have a varied selection of products. So here's just a few that caught my eye. She's got fake eyelashes for dogs. Who knew? A chew toy called White Paw, which looks just like the can of White Claw, and dog beds in the shape of cakes and cupcakes. I mean, I don't even have a dog, but I need these.
I wish my dog would let me put falsies on her. She would never forgive me, though, if I did that. Okay, but getting back to 2006, that was a seminal year in her career because that's when she released her self-titled debut album. Also, where is her Grammy?
I remember one of the first songs I heard was Nothing in This World, and that music video would play all the time on Much Music. Basically, this geeky teenage boy is infatuated with his sexy neighbor, played by Paris, and he's fantasizing about her grinding around on his bed in her underwear. It's slightly disturbing to say the least.
I secretly watched it on the family computer because I was mortified when it came on TV. Also, don't forget about Stars Are Blind. That is a true naughties classic. So Paris made her way back to reality TV in 2008 with a show we actually did tune into weekly called Paris Hilton's My New BFF.
Could you be the one I want? My best friend. Could you be the one I need?
16 women and 3 men moved into one house and competed for the title of Paris's best friend forever.
Yes, we followed that show so closely and we're obsessed with one of the contestants, Anch.
Yes, Anj. Oh, I added him on Facebook. So he didn't win, but he was such a character, and ultimately he did end up becoming a longtime friend of Paris.
He was eliminated from the competition because everyone voted him the fakest in the house, which still mad about. But instead of bidding him goodbye with her typical TTYN, which meant talk to you never, Paris sent Anch home with a TTYS, talk to you soon. And Paris stuck to her word because she brought Anch on as her co-host for the show's second season.
Now, just when you thought Paris had all her bases covered, she went on to become the world's highest paid female DJ by 2014, making roughly $1 million for each gig.
I love it. She first got famous for partying and she came full circle. Years later, she's DJing at the hottest clubs and parties.
I find it pretty fascinating how she's managed to stay culturally relevant for close to 30 years. The peak of her fame did start to wane in the 2010s, especially as the Kardashians started to dominate mainstream media, but Paris has somehow found a way to create her own niche corner in every new trend, and she's never really failed, at least business-wise.
From the day she was born, she was already destined to live a very wealthy and privileged life. But the fact that she has worked so hard and proved just how successful she can be all on her own, I respect the heck out of her. She broke out of that dumb blonde stereotype, and I think a lot of people have changed their views and opinions about her.
Count me as one of those people. I genuinely appreciate the amount of laughs and entertainment she provided us, and I also really like keeping up with the stuff she's working on today, but not in the ironic way that we used to when we followed her when we were younger.
So, on that note, I think we have to read my Paris Hilton story now. It's the product of the impression the media gave us of Paris when we were kids.
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, part one, the arrest. One day, Paris Hilton was walking out of a club with her friends when she couldn't find her car. She got her keys out and started beeping the horn. When she finally found it, she stumbled into the driver's seat.
Are you sure you're okay to drive, Paris?
Nicole Richie asked.
Yeah, I think I'm fine. What's your name again?
Paris slurred.
Never mind. Just drive safe, okay? We'll see you in the morning downtown to start filming The Simple Life.
Paris just slammed her car door and started the car. But as soon as Paris pulled out of the parking spot, she hit a passing old man walking with his walker. Paris didn't even see him. Then she hit a tree and a brand new car. After hitting all those things, she was finally on the road. She was zigzagging all over the road when all of a sudden she heard a police siren behind her. Then she heard a man yell,
Pull over, lady!
"It was the policeman!" Paris pulled over but crashed into a tree in the process. Just a few minutes later, a policeman came up to Paris's car window and knocked on it. She found the button and put the window down.
Hello, miss. I pulled you over because you were driving off the road and you have been crashing into things. Can you explain, please?
Asked the officer.
Well, officer, I absolutely have no idea what you're talking about.
Ma'am, have you been out partying?
Asked the officer.
No.
Said Paris.
All right then. I'm going to ask you to please get out of the car and follow me right this way.
Said the officer.
Officer, what are you going to do?
Paris said, stumbling out of her car and falling onto the ground.
Ma'am, you're going to do a test, so please get up and come with me.
He said. Paris got up and stumbled over to where the officer was standing.
Okay, miss, hold this. We're going to make a line, so don't let go of it.
Said the officer, then walked in the other direction and made a line with the rope he had.
All right, now place it down on the ground in front of you.
He said. Paris bent down and put the rope down, but fell flat on her face.
Are you all right, miss? Please get up.
Said the officer. Paris got up and then fell again, so the officer had to hold her up so she wouldn't fall.
Okay, now, miss, you have to walk this line without going off. 1 foot in front of the other, okay? Go.
said the officer. The officer let go of Paris and she began to walk the line, but fell over and over again. Then the officer just said,
Okay, well, you failed the test, so you're being arrested for driving under the influence. You'll be going to jail and you'll pay a fine of about $1 million.
said the officer, handing Paris a ticket.
Oh, and by the way, your license will be taken away. You will no longer be able to drive.
But officer, I don't know what the heck you're talking about.
Screamed Paris.
I can't go to jail because I have to shoot a television show tomorrow morning and I have to be there.
She yelled, hitting him with her purse.
Sorry, ma'am, but you can't be driving like this. It's against the law, and it's part of my job that I arrest people doing things that are illegal. Sorry. When you get to jail, you can call the television show and tell them that you're not going to be able to go to the filming because you were arrested.
He explained. Paris started crying, but the officer didn't seem to care one bit.
Okay, miss, get yourself together and let's go. You'll be riding with me in the police cruiser all the way to jail,
He said, jumping into the driver's seat of the police car. Paris wobbled toward the back seat of the car and crawled in. She couldn't believe she was going to jail. She had never been in this much trouble before, and she was so scared. And that concludes part 1 of the infamous 6-part Paris Hilton story. Now, we'll be uploading a picture of this to the Instagram in case you don't believe that this is an actual story. So, what do you guys think?
Amazing. Pulitzer Prize winner right there.
Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. And thank you all for listening. Honestly, I can't believe that's out in the world now.
Make sure you give Morgan's story a 5-star rating on Goodreads and also connect with us on Instagram at NaughtyGirlsPod for that picture of the story and for even more Paris content to hold you over until our next episode.
And we'll catch you guys again in 2 weeks with part 2.